3,000 years after Galactic Council annihilated Earth, humans returned for revenge. 3,000 years had passed since Earth burned, yet the memory of its destruction still shaped the galaxy. Among the stars ruled by the Galactic Council, Earth was remembered only as a warning. Ancient archives described it as a primitive world that dared to resist authority. The Council had erased it to prove a point, and that point had echoed across history. No rising species ever forgot what happened when it challenged galactic order. On the anniversary of Earth's annihilation, the Council gathered as it always did. Massive chambers of light and crystal floated above the capital world. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the hall, their bodies shaped by worlds of fire, ice, gas, and endless ocean. Holograms replayed sanitized images of Earth's final day. Blue oceans boiled, continents cracked. A civilization disappeared in silence. The council speaker declared the ritual complete. The galaxy, they said, remained stable because fear had been preserved. Humanity was gone. Earth was dust. Order endured. Few questioned it anymore. Humans had become a myth, barely more than a footnote in history lessons. Younger species doubted they had ever existed. Older ones remembered just enough to feel uneasy when the subject came up. But unease faded quickly under the comfort of council protection. Far from the capital, at the edge of known space, a small research station orbited a dying star. The station's sensors suddenly flickered. Engineers blamed cosmic interference. Then the readings stabilized, showing something impossible. There was movement where nothing should be. The object did not emit heat, radiation, or any known energy signature. It did not warp space in familiar ways. It simply appeared like a shadow placed carefully against the void. The station commander ordered a standard hail. No response came. Before another command could be issued, every system on the station shut down. Life support remained active, but communications, weapons, and navigation went dark. Minutes later, the object vanished. When power returned, the station's memory cores were gone, cut out with impossible precision. The incident was reported to the council as an anomaly. It was filed, reviewed, and quietly forgotten. Similar reports followed in the months after. Listening posts failed. Supply convoys disappeared without debris. Border worlds lost contact for hours, then days, then forever. There were no explosions, no distress signals, no survivors, only silence. The council reassured the galaxy. Pirates, they said, rogue machines, natural phenomena not yet understood. None of the explanations fully fit, but authority spoke with confidence, and most chose to believe it. In a sealed archive chamber deep beneath the council capital, an elderly historian studied the reports with growing dread. His species lived long enough to remember Earth, not from recordings but from lived experience. He remembered the day the council voted for annihilation. He remembered how quickly the decision was made. He compared sensor logs, ship silhouettes, and tactical patterns. The conclusions formed slowly, like ice spreading across his thoughts. The technology was unfamiliar, but the behavior was not. The patience, the restraint, the refusal to broadcast dominance, it was human. He requested an emergency audience. The council denied it. Beyond the mapped stars, in regions marked as empty, humanity waited. They no longer lived on planets the way they once had. Their cities drifted between systems, hidden within artificial shadows that bent light and space. Generations had been born who had never seen a natural sky, yet every child learned the same story, told without exaggeration or hate. Earth had trusted the galaxy. The galaxy had answered with fire. Humanity survived because some had prepared for the impossible, deep shelters. Hidden fleets, long-term genetic vaults. What began as desperate survival became a new way of existence. Over centuries, humans adapted. They shed weaknesses that had once divided them. Nations dissolved into purpose. Culture refined itself around memory and patience. Revenge was never rushed. It was studied. Human engineers learned not only how to build stronger weapons, but how to build quieter ones. Scientists learned how to erase signatures instead of amplifying them. Strategists studied council psychology, discovering that its greatest strength, coordination, had also become its greatest flaw. The council relied on predictability, on belief in its own permanence. Humanity trained itself to become unpredictable. When the first human fleet moved, it did so without ceremony. No banners, no declarations. Ships shaped by function rather than beauty slipped into council space through pathways no one knew existed. Each vessel carried generations of thought, refined by time. They struck only to observe. Outposts were disabled, not destroyed. Data was taken, not erased. Humans wanted to see how the council reacted, how it explained the impossible to itself. The answer was denial. Council commanders refused to accept that an extinct species could return. Automated defenses were upgraded. Patrols doubled. Trade routes were adjusted. Yet the disappearances continued, spreading deeper into core territory. On a mid-level council world, a merchant watched the sky change color one night. The stars dimmed, as if something massive passed between them and the planet. For a moment, every electronic device shut off. When power returned, the merchant found a symbol burned gently into the stone of the spaceport floor. It was simple, ancient, a circle broken by a single line. No one on that world understood its meaning. But far away in the drifting cities beyond space, human observers marked the test as complete. The symbol was not a threat. It was a reminder. Within the council, debates grew heated. Some demanded full mobilization, others argued restraint. The speaker insisted the situation was under control. The council had crushed humanity once. It could crush any unknown force again. They failed to see the difference. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been young, emotional, divided. It had believed rules would protect it. Now humanity believed only in results. On the human command platform, a vast structure hidden inside folded space, leaders gathered in silence. They did not argue. Every decision had already been simulated thousands of times. Each possible council response had been mapped. The time for hiding was nearly over. One commander, born centuries after Earth's destruction, studied a restored image of the planet. Blue oceans, white clouds, green land. He felt no personal grief, only inherited resolve. Earth was not just a lost home. It was proof of what trust without strength led to. He issued a single order. The next phase began. Across the galaxy, communication relays activated without authorization. A message appeared on screens in languages long thought forgotten. It was brief. No threats, no demands. "We remember," panic followed. The council attempted to trace the signal. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Attempts to block it failed. Attempts to deny it sounded hollow. For the first time in 3 millennia, the word human returned to common speech. And for the first time, the galaxy felt something it had not felt since Earth burned. Fear. Far beyond council space, human fleets adjusted course. The waiting was over. The first step had been taken, not with fire, but with memory. Humanity had returned, not as survivors begging to be seen, but as witnesses who had come to collect a debt. And this time, the galaxy would not be allowed to forget. The message spread faster than panic ever could. Every world connected to the council network saw it appear and disappear within seconds, yet no system could explain how it arrived. Engineers replayed logs again and again. There was no entry point, no origin. It was as if the galaxy itself had spoken. "We remember." On the council capital world, emergency sessions were called without ceremony. Delegates arrived in confusion, fear hidden behind practiced authority. Some demanded the chamber be sealed. Others demanded the speaker explain how an extinct species had accessed secured networks. The speaker stood calm, voice steady, insisting the message was psychological warfare. A trick by an unknown enemy using ancient myths to destabilize order. Humanity, the speaker repeated, was gone. Earth was dust. Memory alone could not threaten the council. Yet the room did not feel convinced. Reports continued to arrive. Core trade lanes failed simultaneously. Navigation beacons stopped responding, not destroyed, but silenced. Ships entering certain regions vanished, then reappeared days later, their crews alive but shaken. They spoke of losing time, of systems shutting down without warning, of shadows moving outside their hulls. One patrol captain described seeing a fleet through the viewport, not attacking, just watching. When the patrol tried to flee, their engines failed. When they prepared weapons, targeting systems went blind. Then, without explanation, everything returned to normal. The fleet was gone. The council ordered tighter control. Military presence increased near key systems. Automated defense platforms were activated for the first time in centuries. The galaxy had grown used to peace enforced by reputation rather than force. Now that reputation felt thin. On neutral worlds, old rumors resurfaced. Elders spoke quietly of Earth, of the speed with which the council had voted, of how no survivors were ever officially confirmed. Younger generations listened with growing unease. In forgotten data vaults, human history was being searched again. Beyond known space, Human Command reviewed the council's reaction. The results matched expectations. Confusion, denial, internal disagreement. Humanity had predicted this long ago. The second phase did not begin with battle. It began with exposure. Human vessels infiltrated council archives, not to erase records, but to unlock them. Classified files long sealed were released quietly into public networks across the galaxy. Evidence of council decisions, transcripts of votes, calculations that reduced Earth to a statistical risk. Worlds that had trusted the council began to question it. The council attempted censorship. Entire networks were shut down. That only confirmed suspicion. When order relies on silence, truth becomes dangerous. On a frontier world, a teacher showed her students newly uncovered images of Earth. Not war footage, but daily life. Families, music, cities full of light. The children asked why such a world was destroyed. The teacher had no answer. The council's military commanders demanded action. They insisted on finding the enemy and forcing a direct confrontation. The speaker authorized a reconnaissance fleet to enter one of the affected regions, equipped with the most advanced detection technology available. The fleet never reached its destination. It was not destroyed. It was redirected. Days later, the fleet emerged near the council capital, drifting peacefully. Crews reported no damage, no injuries, but something was wrong. Their navigational maps had been altered. Every system now contained detailed routes into council space that had never existed before. Humanity had mapped the heart of the Empire and returned the map as a warning. The message was clear to those who understood strategy. You are not hidden. You never were. Inside human space, reactions were controlled, almost quiet. There was no celebration, no anger, just progression. Each phase had been prepared centuries in advance, refined by generations who knew patience better than rage. Human society had changed in ways the council could not imagine. There were no politicians seeking personal power. Leadership rotated based on proven decision-making. Children were taught history without hero worship. Earth was remembered not as paradise lost, but as lesson learned. Humans no longer believed the galaxy would save them. They believed only in preparation. The next step required contact. A single human ship entered council space openly. It did not hide. It did not attack. It transmitted identification codes no system recognized and moved slowly toward a mid-tier council world known for diplomacy. The world's defenses locked on immediately. The ship made no attempt to evade. Council diplomats panicked. Military commanders demanded permission to fire. The speaker hesitated. Destroying an unarmed vessel could ignite unrest already growing across the galaxy. The ship stopped just outside defensive range and broadcast a request to communicate. After hours of debate, the council agreed to receive the message. The transmission did not show a human face, only a symbol, ancient and unmistakable to those who had studied Earth's ruins. Beneath it, a calm voice spoke in precise, simple language. We are the descendants of Earth. We survived. We adapted. We observed. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted accusations of lies and deception. The speaker demanded proof. The human voice responded without emotion. Proof came in the form of shared memories. Archived council footage from the day Earth was destroyed. Full, unedited recordings, internal debates, calculations of acceptable losses, words spoken without fear of consequence. Across the galaxy, worlds watched the truth unfold. The human voice continued. We are not here to destroy the galaxy. We are here because history was broken. The transmission ended. The ship turned and left unharmed. For the first time in its existence, the Galactic Council faced something it could not control with authority alone. Its image as protector was fractured, its claim of moral leadership exposed as selective. Some council members proposed surrendering power, others demanded war. Alliances within the council began to crack along old lines. Species that had once feared Earth now questioned why fear had been necessary at all. In secret, certain council leaders prepared escape plans. Human observers recorded everything. The galaxy stood at a turning point, though few realized how close it was to collapse. Humanity had not fired a single shot, yet the balance of power was already shifting. Fear no longer belonged only to the weak. It had found its way back to the throne. And humanity, patient as ever, moved to the next step, knowing that true revenge was not chaos, but consequence. The galaxy did not sleep after the transmission. Worlds stayed awake, networks overloaded, and conversations once whispered now filled public forums. The truth about Earth spread faster than the Council could contain it. Every species saw the same thing and understood it in its own way. The Galactic Council tried to regain control. Official statements were issued, carefully worded to soften responsibility. Earth, they claimed, had been a tragic necessity, a difficult choice made in a dangerous time. They spoke of stability, of survival, of the greater good. But the words felt hollow now. Across many systems, trust began to fracture. Member worlds questioned why such power had ever been centralized, why no one had been allowed to vote except the Council itself, why fear had been used as law. Humanity watched and waited. Human fleets moved quietly into positions that had been selected centuries ago. Not aggressive positions, observational ones, places where they could intervene if needed or withdraw without loss. Their ships remained mostly unseen, slipping between dimensions of space the Council still did not understand. The goal was not destruction, it was pressure. On a Council-aligned industrial world, workers stopped production after leaked documents revealed their resources had been used to build weapons that destroyed Earth. On a distant ocean world, leaders announced they would no longer send representatives to Council sessions until accountability was addressed. Small acts, but together they formed a pattern. The Council was losing its grip. Inside the capital, the speaker faced a divided chamber. Military leaders demanded authorization to strike human assets wherever they could be found. Diplomats warned that open war would push neutral worlds toward humanity. The speaker chose force. A Council battle group was dispatched toward a region where human ships had been detected earlier. The fleet was massive, designed to overwhelm any threat through sheer presence. It entered the region with weapons active, shields raised, and confidence restored. Humanity did not retreat. The first encounter happened without warning. Council sensors failed simultaneously. Communication between ships dropped to zero. Panic spread as captains lost contact not only with command but with each other. Then the human fleet appeared. It was smaller than expected. Sleek vessels, dark against the stars, moving with controlled precision. They did not rush forward. They held position as if waiting. Council commanders ordered fire. Weapons discharged, filling space with light. None of the attacks connected. Human ships moved just enough, bending space around them so shots passed harmlessly through. Then humanity responded. They did not destroy the fleet, they disabled it. One by one, Council ships lost power. Engines shut down. Weapons went offline. Life support remained active. Crews were left drifting, alive, unharmed, and helpless. A human transmission filled every disabled ship. This is a demonstration, not a punishment. The human ships withdrew. The Council fleet was later recovered by rescue vessels. Survivors spoke of overwhelming calm, of realizing their enemy could have erased them but chose not to. That realization spread fear deeper than destruction ever could. Humanity had proven superiority without bloodshed. The message was unmistakable. If war came, it would not be equal. Within human space, leaders reviewed the engagement. Every system had performed within expected parameters. No losses, no escalation beyond plan. The response was restrained approval. They were not in a hurry. Humanity had learned that rushing vengeance only weakened it. The Council had taken Earth in a single violent moment. Humans would take the Council apart slowly, layer by layer, until it collapsed under its own weight. Across the galaxy, Council authority weakened further. Some member species openly withdrew. Others began secret talks with human envoys who appeared without warning, spoke calmly, and left without demands. The message was always the same. We are not your rulers. Decide your own future. That frightened some worlds more than domination ever had. For generations, the Council had told the galaxy what safety looked like. Now that voice was fading and silence filled the gap. In that silence, old rivalries threatened to return. Humanity anticipated this. Human fleets intervened where conflicts began to flare, not by choosing sides but by enforcing limits. Weapons failed mid-launch. Armies lost power before battles began. Leaders found themselves unable to issue attack orders. Humanity acted like an invisible hand, preventing chaos while refusing control. Slowly, a realization spread. Humans were not replacing the council. They were removing the need for it. Inside the council capital, desperation grew. The speaker authorized the development of experimental weapons banned by ancient law. The hope was simple. If humanity could be frightened, it might retreat. The weapon was tested in deep space. It failed. Human countermeasures activated before the test completed, neutralizing the system without trace. The council never even detected the intervention. Human observers marked the speaker's decision as the final confirmation. The council could not be trusted to reform itself. The time for exposure had ended. The time for judgment approached. A second human transmission was prepared. This one was longer, more detailed. It was not sent to leaders but to citizens across the galaxy. It explained humanity's long exile, the choices made after Earth fell. The decision to survive without hate but not without memory. It showed how humans had studied the galaxy not to conquer it, but to understand it better than it understood itself. The transmission ended with a simple statement. We will no longer allow fear to be law. Protests erupted on council worlds. Some were peaceful, others were not. Council security forces struggled to respond as their systems failed unpredictably. Every attempt to suppress unrest was quietly blocked. Humanity did not need to command the masses. Truth did that work for them. In the council chamber, the speaker finally faced what had been avoided since the beginning. The humans were not ghosts. They were not myths. They were the consequence of a decision made long ago. The speaker ordered a final action. An attempt was made to locate Earth's remains and destroy them completely, to erase humanity's origin one last time. The logic was flawed, born of fear rather than strategy. Humanity intercepted the fleet before it could reach the Sol system. This time the response was different. Human ships surrounded the Council fleet completely. No escape routes, no interference, just silence. A human voice addressed the fleet. You already destroyed our home. This attempt proves you learned nothing. The Council fleet was dismantled, piece by piece, and escorted back to Council space in full view of the galaxy. Every world watched as the once feared symbol of authority returned powerless. The psychological impact was devastating. The Council no longer inspired obedience. It inspired doubt. As Part 3 drew to a close, the galaxy stood on unstable ground. The old order was collapsing, but the new one had not yet taken shape. Humanity remained present but distant, powerful but restrained. The question now was no longer whether humans would win. It was what they would choose to do once they had. The collapse did not come with fire or sudden ruin. It came with hesitation. The Galactic Council still existed in name, but its authority had thinned like air at high altitude. Orders were questioned. Commands were delayed. Worlds that once obeyed without thought now asked why. Humanity did not rush to fill the space left behind. Human fleets remained where they were, visible enough to be felt, distant enough to avoid control. Their presence acted like gravity. Everything moved in relation to them, even when they did nothing at all. On the Council capital world, the speaker watched the chamber grow emptier with each session. Some delegates had stopped attending. Others sent observers instead of decision-makers. The unity that once defined the Council had fractured into fear and suspicion. Military leaders demanded a final solution. They argued that the longer humanity waited, the more unstable the galaxy would become. They warned that chaos would spread, that old wars would return, that order required force. The speaker listened, but no longer believed. Every attempt at force had failed. Every threat had revealed weakness instead of strength. The Council had built its power on the idea that no one could challenge it. Humanity had shattered that idea without trying to rule. That made them more dangerous than any conqueror. On dozens of worlds, emergency assemblies formed without Council approval. Leaders spoke openly of a future without centralized rule. Some feared humanity would punish those who stayed loyal to the Council. Others feared humanity would leave and let the galaxy tear itself apart. Human envoys appeared where they were needed, never announced, never imposing. They answered questions honestly. They made no promises of protection, only statements of intent. We will stop mass destruction. We will not stop choice. That answer disturbed many. Choice meant responsibility, something the Council had quietly taken away long ago. As unrest grew, small conflicts did begin to spark. Old rivals tested each other. Border skirmishes flared. Humanity intervened selectively, shutting down battles before they escalated. Their methods were precise. Weapons failed. Command systems froze. Leaders found themselves unable to continue aggression. Humanity was not enforcing peace. They were enforcing limits. The galaxy slowly learned the boundaries. Inside human command, long simulations reached their final stage. The Council had proven it would not surrender power willingly. Even weakened, it still held symbolic authority that delayed real change. Humanity concluded that the structure itself had to end. Not through destruction, through exposure and consequence. The final plan was approved without ceremony. A human fleet moved toward the Council capital world, not in stealth, but openly. Thousands of vessels emerged from folded space, surrounding the planet in a formation no military doctrine recognized. They did not target cities. They did not power weapons. They waited. The Council panicked. Emergency broadcasts were sent. Calls for unity rang hollow. Defense systems activated, then failed quietly. Satellites lost alignment. Orbital weapons powered down. Humanity had already disabled them. A single human vessel descended toward the Council chamber, landing in a space cleared long ago for ceremonial arrivals. No alarms sounded. No guards resisted. Doors opened as if the building itself recognized inevitability. Inside the chamber, remaining delegates gathered in silence. The speaker stood at the center, older now, worn by years of denial. The human delegation entered. They did not wear armor. They carried no visible weapons. Their presence was calm, almost ordinary, which unsettled the room more than any show of force. A human representative spoke, voice steady and clear. "This council will end today," shouts erupted. Accusations flew. Threats were made and ignored. The human representative waited until silence returned. "You destroyed Earth to preserve order. That act created us. We did not come for revenge alone. We came because a system built on fear will always repeat its worst decisions." The speaker asked the question no one else dared. "What do you want?" The answer was immediate. "Accountability." Human systems activated across the capital world. Screens lit up everywhere, not propaganda, records. Every council vote involving suppression, extermination, forced compliance. Names, dates, consequences, no editing, no commentary. The galaxy watched. Some delegates tried to flee. Human security fields stopped them gently, without harm. No one was arrested. No one was attacked. They were simply forced to remain present. "You will answer for your decisions," the human representative said. "Not to us, to the galaxy." Independent courts formed across neutral worlds within hours, supported by human data but controlled by non-human judges. Trials were scheduled. Evidence was shared freely. The council's claim to moral authority evaporated completely. The speaker finally understood. Humanity was not judging individuals. They were judging a system. The council formally dissolved before the next rotation cycle. Its seal was removed from networks. Its authority withdrawn. Member worlds declared independence or formed new alliances based on mutual consent rather than fear. The galaxy did not collapse. It stumbled, adjusted, and continued. Human fleets remained for a time, ensuring no one tried to seize control through force. When stability began to form naturally, they withdrew gradually, leaving behind open communication channels instead of bases. Earth's location was revealed publicly at last. Not as a rallying point, but as a memorial. Ships from many species visited the system, seeing the remains of a world they had only known as a warning. Now it was something else. A reminder. Humanity made no claim to leadership. They refused permanent seats in any new governing bodies. They offered technology only when asked and always with limits. "We will not be your council," they said. "You must decide together." As Part 4 came to its end, the galaxy stood changed. The old power was gone. The new future was uncertain but real. Humanity watched from the edges, satisfied not because they had won, but because the choice that had destroyed Earth could never be made so easily again. One last human message spread quietly through the stars. Judgment is complete. What comes next is up to you. And for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy believed it. The galaxy took its first breath without the Galactic Council slowly, like a being waking from a long sleep. The old systems of control were gone, but their shadows still lingered. Worlds that had relied on orders now had to rely on understanding. Some adapted quickly, others struggled. Humanity did not disappear immediately. Human fleets remained visible at the edges of major systems, silent witnesses rather than guardians. They intervened only when destruction threatened entire populations. Beyond that, they watched, learned, and waited. On many worlds, new assemblies formed. Representatives met without a single dominant authority guiding them. Decisions took longer. Debates were louder. But for the first time, outcomes reflected consent rather than fear. The memory of Earth became a shared reference point. Not a weapon, but a lesson written into galactic culture. Young species learned its story early, not as propaganda, but as warning. Power without accountability always repeats itself. In the Sol system, humanity gathered for a moment that had been prepared for centuries. The ruins of Earth remained mostly untouched. No rebuilding had begun. The planet was allowed to rest, scarred but dignified. Human ships arrived in silence, forming a wide orbit. From observation decks, humans of many generations looked down at the world their ancestors had lost and never reclaimed. There were no speeches filled with anger, no calls for conquest, only reflection. Humanity had achieved its objective. The Council was gone. The system that destroyed Earth could never exist in the same form again, but victory brought its own question. What now? For centuries, survival and preparation had given humanity purpose. Revenge had given direction. Now both were complete. Human leaders met privately, not to argue, but to decide how much of themselves to give back to the galaxy that had once rejected them. Total withdrawal would leave a vacuum. Total involvement would risk becoming what they destroyed. The answer, when it came, was simple: presence without control. Humanity announced the creation of open archives accessible to all species. Technologies developed in exile were shared selectively, focusing on defense, medicine, and sustainability. Weapons remained restricted. Knowledge came with responsibility. Human observers would remain in key regions, not as rulers but as witnesses. Any attempt at mass extermination or forced domination would be stopped. Beyond that, humanity would not interfere. Some worlds welcomed this, others feared it. But all understood the rule: never again. Across the galaxy, the consequences of Council rule continued to surface. Former leaders stood trial. Some were exiled, some were stripped of authority. A few faced imprisonment decided by neutral courts. Humanity did not demand punishments. They accepted the outcomes chosen by others. That restraint changed everything. For the first time, humans were seen not as conquerors, but as something rarer, a standard. Centuries later, historians would struggle to define humanity's role. Were they saviors, judges, survivors? None of the labels fully fit. What could be said with certainty was this: they remembered. Humanity rebuilt its culture not around dominance, but around vigilance. Children were taught that power always asked for justification. That silence in the face of injustice was consent. That survival without integrity meant nothing. The galaxy changed slowly, unevenly. Conflicts still happened. Mistakes were made. But extermination ceased to be a policy. Fear lost its legal status. In distant systems, species once considered insignificant began to rise without hiding. They grew knowing that annihilation would not be tolerated, not because of human rule, but because of human memory. At the edge of the galaxy, human fleets finally began to withdraw. One by one, their vessels folded into space, returning to regions beyond mapped stars. They left behind no bases, no flags, no demands, only archives, only observers, only the knowledge that someone would remember. On Earth, a single human ship descended through broken clouds and scarred atmosphere. It did not land to colonize. It landed to place something simple, a marker. No words of blame were written, no threats to the future. Only a record of what had been lost and what had been learned. As the ship departed, sensors across the galaxy detected nothing unusual. No signal, no message. Humanity did not announce its departure. It did not need to. The galaxy had changed because of them, and change did not require continued presence to remain true. Long after human fleets vanished from common sight, their influence remained. Councils formed and dissolved naturally. Alliances rose and fell. But no single power ever again claimed the right to erase an entire world. Because somewhere in the collective memory of the stars, one truth remained alive. Earth was destroyed once, and the galaxy had paid the price for forgetting that destruction had consequences. Humanity did not return to rule. They returned to remember, and in doing so, they taught the galaxy to do the same.